seen this article that says the #1 bank in the United States is buying $1 billion worth of single family homes in the United States, not to resale, they're buying them to rent. So if you haven't seen this article, it's JPMorgan's Jamie Dimon meeting with a investor that builds development communities. So they build from ground up these single family home communities, and they don't sell them, they keep them and they rent them out. So Chase is taking $1 billion investment into this space, and it shows that it's supposed to close in 90 days. I've got my article pulled up over here, and there's some interesting facts that I want to pull out of this. But way more importantly than this article, I want to paint the bigger picture as to what's going on. So if you haven't heard, over the last 2 years, there has been an enormous increase in hedge funds or these investment companies coming in and buying a ton of single family homes and buying them with the purpose of holding them and renting them out. Now, why is this? Why would they be doing this, especially with all the uncertainty going on right now? Well, it's pretty simple. They're looking for an 8% return. It says that in the article. And that's pretty standard for an investment on real estate, especially. Let's dive into the actual specifics of this particular deal, but also look at the bigger picture of why are these hedge funds buying real estate and how do they get to that 8%? How does it make sense? You want some investing tips? I'll have them at the end of this. But let's go through the article. So number one, it's simple. I've got an article up here and a quote from amgnational.com, and this says that investors, now this is going to put it into perspective, this $1 billion huge investment, this is going to put the whole thing into perspective here. So investors spent $50 billion to buy 77,000 homes January, February, March of this year. Just the first quarter of this year, there was $50 billion invested in buying single family homes to a hedge fund or an investment company, and their purpose is to rent them out. Now, that was up 30% from the year before, which means there was probably $50 billion invested the year prior, but down from the record of 93,000 homes that were invested in the third quarter of 2021. So my point here is, while this article is getting a lot of steam right now, that is not the bigger picture. This is a much, much larger scale. And what does this mean? One, why are they doing it? They're doing it for investment purposes. They're there to make money. And they understand that inventory in housing, real estate, is one of the best hedges against inflation. Because when inflation goes up, your cost of rent goes up, your price of the home goes up, as we've all seen in the last 2 years. And they're taking 40%, putting it down, taking a loan on the rest. That renter that now is in that home is paying the entire mortgage and all the costs, and they collect cash flow every single month. You also have a ton of tax benefits when you own real estate. Depreciation, all the write-offs you get for owning an investment property, and they're getting appreciation because the home prices are expected to go up. They wouldn't be buying these homes if they expected 20-30% price drops. Now here's the problem for everyday buyers and sellers, or even investors like you and myself, is when they buy these homes. I'll give you an example, is this Chase deal. They're buying 3 neighborhoods in Atlanta, Georgia. They're developing them. So from ground up, they're gonna build single family homes, 250 of them, and they're gonna be the whole entire community is gonna be rental properties. Now, I know talking to buyers and sellers, especially sellers, when they're selling a home, especially if it's a family, oftentimes they don't want the buyer to be an investor. Like, they'd rather sell it to a homeowner if they can, but if not, it is what it is. And this just goes to show, like, an entire neighborhood being rental properties is getting way more common, and this trend is not going to stop. So this is another aspect of it as well too, is these homes are likely never, or at least not for 5 to 10 years, ever going to be on the market again. So when an entire development gets sold out, the likelihood of them putting signs in the yard, those going on Zillow and Redfin and all our websites, for you to go browse is very unlikely. I would imagine that if they do ever sell their portfolio of homes, they'll sell it to another investor who's looking to make their 8%, which means raising rents, adding more value and all of those things. So the concern that I have is this is already a stat nationwide, not for our local market so much, but 1 out of every 5 homes that's sold is bought by an investor, a hedge fund investor, not your typical mom and pop investor like you and myself. The reasoning they're saying that they can do this or why they want to do this is to fix the housing shortage. They're willing to invest $1 billion to build homes, and they'll make money from it, just like people will be able to go rent those properties, which is good. We have had a housing shortage for quite some time, especially here. The closer you get to the coast in Orange County, we know we have a housing problem. Inflation, inventory's up 4 times, and we're still at half of what we need. It is good what they're doing, but it's scary, especially when you see some of the quotes. Let me read a quote from this article from a professor at the Columbia Business School. I can't even pronounce his name, but I'll put it in the article. He believes that the build-to-rent model is more efficient than the traditional model of buying and selling each newly built home separately. Now, more efficient, that is scary at how displaced from us, the normal buyer and seller, that this guy is. Because he's saying it's more efficient to sell the entire neighborhood to one person. Of course it is, but that was never the intention when homes were built in the first place. Sure, people are supposed to live in them. The whole American dream is to buy a home and the white picket fence and the whole 9 yards there. So it's scary to me that you have somebody as smart as a professor of the Columbia Business School saying that it's more efficient and thinking that's the right thing. This is going to take inventory off of the market likely forever. Usually when a hedge fund invests, they'll park their money for 5 years with the intentions of doubling it, and then they'll sell it. Probably not going to sell these houses one by one to regular people. They're probably going to flip this investment to another hedge fund. So there's a lot more on here. I have it in the article. If you want to make sure you're seeing that, click to our ocmarketupdates.com to get on the newsletter. But here's my takeaway is if you own a home already, this should, for me, it reignites. I'm very interested in investing in real estate, and that's been my path for a long time. But if you haven't dove into that as an option to build your wealth in the future, it might be worth talking to one of our local experts, talk to your CPA accountant. Like, does it make sense to take your current property, turn it into a rental property, and buy your next house, keeping this one? Ask about the benefits. There are a lot of them. So you can reach out to them. You're more than welcome to reach out to myself, one of our local experts. Or if you are a renter right now and thinking about getting into home ownership, there's so many benefits that so many people don't know about or know how to take advantage of. So if this information is helpful, please like, share it around. I know this is a huge topic right now. Most people don't know the massive, enormous, issue, but how big this is. So if you like this information, like and share it around. Let us know what you think, other topics you want us to cover. See you soon.